Guys, welcome back to another speculation video covering Pokemon Stars. Now, I'm not going to go into details about the game, of course. You can look at previous videos covering it for that. But today, we're going to be talking about Alolan Forms and what might happen with them in a possible, Pokemon Stars remake, reboot, port, etc. Because there are a few different ways they could go with it. So, the thing is, Alolan Forms were introduced because Alola makes sense there. If they were to do a remake or a sequel that was based in the same region, would they be able to add more Alolan Forms? That's the question. And so Alolan Forms are presented as adaptations in a Pokemon species according to the environment. So Vulpix were brought to Alola. They found that they couldn't live on the low grounds for some reason, who knows. So they were chased up into the mountain tops and eventually became accustomed to that environment and developed the ice typing as well as a different appearance to blend in with the environment. Similarly, Grimer and Muck were brought over, and because of the extra amount of trash and rubbish in the region, they ate that, and rather than becoming goo and slime, they turned into literal trash monsters and hence developed an appearance of an oil slick and stuff like that. So the question is, those are changes that happen over time. You can't just switch up an environment and have a new form. You can't say, oh, we're going to have a volcano erupt and then Alolan Vulpix, Weavile is going to turn into a fire dark type because of that. You can't just do that. I can't make it a snap decision or snap change just according to the environment. It will take years for that to happen, and it's probably being condensed as much as possible in the Pokemon universe, more than it is here, of course, but still would not be possible. So if we were to think of a scenario where it's a sequel, Pokemon Stars is a sequel to Sun and Moon, it's based 3 years in the future, what can they do? Not really too much, because, okay, make the main volcano erupt. As I said, you can't really give a new typing or give a new appearance or anything like that to a Pokemon within 3 years of the location changing or the environment changing. It has to be over time. It can't just be immediate. So really, in that sense, there's no way they could do it. There's no way they could add extra Alolan Forms onto the list. One way they could do it is, say, we're just updating Generation 7 and we have a remake of Pokemon Sun and Moon, possibly into one game, possibly just as two, for example, and as that, remake, they introduce, remake or update, they introduce some more Alolan Forms and say, more Alolan Forms that were not discovered before, which would basically invalidate Pokemon Sun and Moon from the Pokemon universe canon, at least the main canon for the Mega universe. They just wouldn't exist anymore, because they would not be able to exist, those two games, in the same universe, with one having some more extra Alolan Forms that would just not make any sense. So we would have to drop that. So that's the reason I don't think they will do it in any scenario. I don't think it's possible for them to introduce any more Alolan Forms in a Sun, Moon, Stars, Eclipse, whatever you might want to call it, at least in the Alola region. Okay, I can't rule out Generation 7 because a possibility for that is that they introduce it for, as we talk about for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, a Sinnohan form, which is something that could very well happen. Of course, there wouldn't be Alolan Forms, there'd be Sinnohan forms, so it'd just be regional variants as general. But basically, I can't see any more Alolan Forms being added ever, maybe? I don't know, ever. If I'm not, explicit to Alola without a sequel or something like that set at least 10 years in the future. Maybe eventually if they remake Sun and Moon, maybe, who knows if that happen, maybe they could introduce some more there. But in terms of Generation 7 at least, it's very, very unlikely to happen in my eyes. Of course, if you guys have any difference of opinions, let me know down in the comment section, because you might disagree with me, in which case I want to hear about it, because I want to know why and we can talk about it. But personally, I can't see it, okay? If they, do any sort of remake or third game for the Alola region, if anything, I would see Megas be added. Because Mega Evolutions are something you can add in. I mean, yes, okay, it's still a bit weird, because it's like, well, why did no one ever discover these Megas before? Well, to have Megas, you need Mega Stones. And of course, Mega Stones can be facilitated into the environment by something else. So, of course, in X and Y, they were distributed via the thing exploding, and then what you call it, the flower, the Mega Bomb, whatever you might want to call it. that distributed some energy and created Megastones, Keystones, etc. In ORAS, we're not explicitly, or we are explicitly told where they come from, because some, well, not really, some of them only appear after you defeat, after you pass the main storyline of Groudon or Kyogre with Rayquaza, and stuff. Well, not necessarily Rayquaza, but you guys get the idea. So we can assume that the Megastones in the Hoenn region are at least related to Primal Groudon, Primal Kyogre, and maybe from Mega Rayquaza. Of course, you could argue that maybe the smashing of the Meteor with Deoxys, maybe that distributes some more energy, for example. But we can argue that it is related, at least, to the Primals to the Megas. So that's how the extra Megastones are distributed in the environment, and the ones that were there previously could have been left over from Hoenn, from when Kyogre and Groudon last appeared. So that's how they were distributed in those games. So of course in Sun and Moon, if you were to set a third game in here, Pokemon Stars, set 3 years later, for example, as I mentioned twice already in the video, the volcano, it could erupt, or a volcano could erupt, spewing lava, etc. out, and it could also release energy or release Megastones, which can be found across the region. Extra sort of tectonic activity could rise them to the surface, for example, all that stuff like that. Or you can just go very similar to Hoenn and have like a meteor shower or shooting stars fly down and give you more Megastones. So if anything, I would see Megas be introduced in a third game for Sun and Moon, or third game for Alola, rather than Alolan Forms. As mentioned, I do not think Alolan Forms are even possible with a third game, just purely because of the premise. Yes, okay, Megas you can facilitate by adding extra Megastones, which could be contrived to be because of a natural event, something related to the story, etc. Whereas Alolan Forms, you can't just add them in. You can't just add living creatures in and say, aha, they've been here. And half of the Alolan Forms are the story behind them. So yes, okay, if you set it 3 years in the future, and you could say, after the volcano erupted, these Weavile adapted to their new lava environment and became fire types so they could walk on lava. Yes, you could say that, but it's not a very deep story if it's 3 years in the making. Of course, we've seen it in stuff like Alolan Vulpix and Muck and Grimer. They were brought here and over time have adapted. It's not like they brought here and oh bam, look, they changed to a typing. It happened over time. You could even say it wasn't really noticed by the Alolan residents, because if we assume that Vulpix were brought to the region, I don't know, at least 500 years ago, then of course they have adapted over a long time. So it's not like the current living residents, so Hala, for example, from Hala the First Kahuna, he has never seen a non-Alolan Vulpix. He didn't see times when normal Vulpixes were living on Alola. They've always been Alolan Vulpixes for his time period, which gives it history. And of course you can't do that with a sequel, because unless it's 100 years in the future, you just can't do it. So I'll stop rambling. Mega evolutions would be what they focus on, I believe, in my opinion, for a third game in a series, because they need something to promote it. Of course, that's what they have for ORAS. They had, more Megas for ORAS. Sun and Moon had, look, Alolan Forms. And then, of course, you need something for Stars. It can't just be, look, a third game. So that's what I'm thinking there. I'm actually supposed to be talking about Megas in the next episode, next video, next part of this mini-series, so expect that, and feel free to let me know any ideas you have about possible Megas that could happen in a Pokemon Stars game, whether they be focusing on Generation 7 Pokemon, Megas for Alolan Forms, maybe. Let me know down below in the comment section if you have any thoughts, but we'll talk more about the next episode, next video, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. But this will be it for me for today, so I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye my friends.